recorded like 45 minutes of this morning, but I've been thinking about it for the past few hours, and I don't know if I was completely coherent. When I first started recording, I didn't have anything to talk about, but I think I kind of have an idea of what I want to talk about now, which is crazy because I came up with the title and the thumbnail of this video a few days ago, and it kind of ties into what is currently going on right now. So, hello, my name is Fig. I'm not very interesting, but I talk a lot, and also I'm doing this while I'm eating, so count your blessings. At least you can't see it. Never mind, I'm not gonna eat until I'm done talking. It all started with a girl whose face I wanted to draw. Random girl, don't know her name. I don't even know if she's still alive, but it was from a panel from like 11 years ago. She just asked a question, and she was smiling the whole time, but there was one tiny moment, split second in time, she stopped smiling, and I paused it. And so I screenshotted it, saved it, wanted to draw it later. It didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to initially. The thing that drives me the most crazy is that it doesn't look exactly like her, but that shouldn't matter. It's just an experiment. So I want to draw it again in the future, but you know, I mean, at least you can tell that it's a human being. Anyway, I was a little bit frustrated and decided to take a little bit of a break from drawing for a couple days, and so I tore out another page from that coloring book from which I colored a few weeks ago and picked out some new colors. Tried to be a little more adventurous with the colors. I didn't know exactly if it was gonna work because the first color and the second color, they looked to me kind of the same shade. So I was really careful with, because with the pink, with the first one, I only did one layer so that it would be as light as possible. But with one layer, the strokes or like the texture is pretty visible, so I had to be careful with that. Anyway, so it looked okay when I finished it. I went from light to dark instead of dark to light because I wanted it to be as much of a mystery as possible for as long as possible. I finished it, it looked all right. I tried to pick colors that were complementary of each other, but I don't know anything about colors. This is kind of an experiment. I put a black and white filter over the picture and it actually turned out fine. For some reason, the dark teal and the light teal are almost the same shade. No. I take that back. The pink and the teal are almost the same shade. That's okay. I think it looks fine. I don't know how I got on this subject, but something about what I was saying before led me to talk about playing the long game. The long game? The long game. Because with playing the long game, there are a lot of missteps, or like setbacks. Not missteps, but setbacks. Maybe some missteps. With the first drawing that I did this week, I was so dissatisfied with it that I had to take a break for a couple days because it kind of, is it normal? Like when you're dissatisfied with something, it physically exhausts you. Immediately it drains your energy. I took a break for a second, worked on my other projects. I was gonna do more drawings, but just to veg my brain, I decided to do this. And so, you know, I could let it discourage me and be like, I've lost it, I can't draw worth my life. No, you know, for some reason, I'm just like, I'm an extremely shy person and I'm really nervous about everything. And I don't know why, because when I think back on it, there's no reason to be shy or nervous about anything. I'm nervous about putting things that I draw out into the world because I always have like professional artists in my mind, and if they look at something that I do, it's just gonna be like, pfft, which shouldn't matter. Anyway, cut all that out. I guess I'm just like playing the extremely long game. Oh, I remember how I got to talking about the long game. So after, oh my, hold on, halt, just for a second. Everybody pause. This is not acceptable. Hold on. What is that doing here? Oh. It's okay though, because it's just a wolf spider. It's fine. So, oh my gosh, how did I not notice that before? Okay, so I took a break from the drawing. It's probably going to take me a while to get to the point that I want to, as far as drawing goes. That is an investment of time, and that is what I wanted to talk about. Investing time and investing the brain power to not look at spiders in the corner. That doesn't make any sense. Now it's going to be tough to make sense because there's a monster right next to me. Investing time takes time. Taking breaks. Okay. Taking breaks. So, okay, yeah. So I have a goal, of course, of the skill level that I want to get to, but it's gonna take a while. And it can be frustrating for me times to draw something and it not turning out the way that I want it to. And also noticing that I don't really know how to manipulate charcoal very much. But you know, that's fine. At least right now, I enjoy the mystery. The mystery of not knowing what the end result is gonna be. And so we're all looking at it for the first time. But I do have a skill level that I want to get to, and that's gonna take a while, and I recognize that. And I need to just be patient until I get there. Investing time. It's work, but it's not killing yourself with that work, depending on what you do. I mean, some work requires you to physically tax yourself to the point of exhaustion. Drawing is not one of those things. So as far as drawing goes, it's not like I have to draw constantly, like for hours and hours every day in order to get better. In fact, I think that is counterproductive. With an instrument, if you really want to get like world-class level, you have to practice for like hours every day. But if you're like me and you don't really care about being world-class, you just have a certain level of comfort that you want to get to, that's unnecessary. So to me, it's not really working hard as much as it is consistency. I mean, certain things, of course, take different levels of work. Like if you work in construction versus a cubicle, that is going to be a different amount of physical labor. I'm getting off on a tangent again. We're just talking about drawing. It's not really working as hard as you can as much as consistency. And I think that can be interchangeable, like the phrase working as hard as you can and being consistent, because it does take a little bit of hard work to be consistent. But like, I'm talking about physically taxing yourself, like to the point of exhaustion. Drawing doesn't really require drawing every single day or for hours every single day in order to improve. And in fact, at least for me, it's had the opposite effect. So I typically only draw seriously draw one thing in a day, because if I draw more than that, it's just gonna decline because I'm just like tired, like my brain is tired. But compare it to like losing weight or physically training for something strenuous, you need to give yourself a break. Like if you're lifting weights, you don't just want to lift weights for 4 hours every single day, 7 days a week without giving your body a break, because it's when your body is resting that your muscle builds. Without rest, your muscle can't build and it just continues to break down. And it's the same here. There are certain muscles that are being worked in my brain where if I worked on it constantly, I wouldn't be able to build the muscles. And it's funny because when I was a kid, I always wondered why the first drawing that I would do after a hiatus or like a few months of not drawing anything, that drawing would be better than a drawing that I would do, after 6 consecutive drawings. And I think it's because of that break, the rest time. I was really on a roll with these charcoal drawings leading up to this portrait of this girl. The fact that I was so dissatisfied with it really took the wind out of my sails because I felt like I was improving. And then as soon as I drew something that I thought was I was like, well, great, I've lost it. But that's not the case. I realized that I just needed to take a little bit of a break. And it's kind of stressful for me to take breaks because it's like, well, what about the consistency? Consistency is like one of the best things. Like with losing weight, if you're consistent with things, in order to be consistent, the patterns or like the lifestyle has to be sustainable, unless you're like training for something really specific. But like if you starve yourself or go on a really intense diet thinking that you're going to be able to lose all the weight that you want to and then keep it off, it's not really going to work out the way that you think. But the more normally you live, the more normal life you live, the more your body generally is going to balance itself out. Everything that exists is constantly searching for a balance. And this is talking literally. It's not talking like philosophically or some sort of ethereal crap. It's like all of the cells in your body, all of the atoms, everything that makes up everything is searching for a balance. Your body is constantly trying to maintain a balance. If you threaten that balance, or if you throw off that balance, it's going to overcompensate. And so then by the time you change back to, let's say someone eats too little for an extended period of time, thinking that it's going to make them lose weight really fast. And then after about 6 months, 3 to 6 months, they go back to the way that they were eating before, or eating normally, the weight is going to bounce back and then some. But it's because my theory is that their body overcompensates because it's trying to find a balance and it's learned certain habits after not getting enough food, or it's learned how to maintain energy through certain means. And then as soon as you give it excess energy or more energy than it's used to, it overcompensates and then you gain the weight back and then some. That's if you're looking for like instant gratification or like a really fast fix, or you're looking for results really quickly. But with playing the long game, it's more sustainable because then your body gets used to certain habits and then it's not so miserable. In fact, it's not miserable at all. And I have this tendency not to look for instant gratification because at this point I gravitate more towards like a slow burn. So it's this is the case with a lot of things, and it's the case with losing weight. It's the case with drawing or any endeavor like a company or like investment. People can find success in whatever they're doing very quickly, but in order to maintain it for a long period of time, the slow burn, I think, lasts longer than if you just like hop on the bandwagon really quickly. Because if the bandwagon is going off a cliff, you're not going to really notice that it's going off the cliff until it's going off the cliff. But if you just step back while everyone else is hopping on the bandwagon, then you're going to see the cliff that's ahead of it. Maybe the bandwagon is, supposed to make a turn, but it's going too fast, and so it just rolls off the cliff. But then there's a bandwagon, not a bandwagon, but then there's a wagon behind it that is going at a reasonable speed, and it's not going to take the corner too quickly. And so you wait for that one, even though it's taking its time. That's why everybody always says that it's a lifestyle change and not like a diet that you go on or a specific exercise regimen that you have to go on for a limited amount of time in order to get results. You will, but then it'll bounce back. The faster you lose weight, the more likely it is to bounce back once you start living normally again. That's why investing time, like with these drawings, I know what point I want to get to, but I'm playing the long game and letting myself take breaks. That was the whole point. Because nobody knows anybody's body more than the person themselves knows their own body. And so you have to decide, I don't know who I'm talking to. I'm not giving advice. You, general you, and me have to decide when we need to take breaks and when it's time to push ourselves. This is me trying to talk myself through being discouraged about a bad drawing, because everybody's gonna have bad drawings. Everybody's gonna have bad days. Everybody's gonna have days where they're sick. But the discouragement from those is not worth it. Maybe you're not even sick one day and like you're trying to work out every day. Maybe you're not even sick, like the flu kind of sick. Maybe your body is just exhausted. If your body is exhausted like that, it's probably good to take a break that day, because it's when you're asleep that your muscle builds. That's not to say that you should sleep all the time and then your muscles will build, but you know what you're doing. You know how hard you're working. You know how consistently you're working. And so you know how often you need to take breaks and how often you need to push yourself. I didn't really think too much about anything this week except for that, because my brain was just filled with this like thoughts of being a failure. Because I drew one drawing that I deemed bad. At the end of the long game, the result lasts for a longer time. And like anybody can apply that to anything. And I'm pretty sure it would apply to most things. Even if everybody's running around like chickens with their heads cut off, you're the one in the corner watching everybody trying to get immediate satisfaction or instant gratification. And then by the time the building burns down, you're going to be the last one standing and the only one that can do anything. But in the meantime, yourself or other people around you will be naysayers. I am my own naysayer. And even if I tell myself that I can't do it, or that I've lost it, or that it's going to take longer than I want it to, I've just determined to let the results speak for themselves. As long as I'm consistent with drawing and I don't go 2 years at a time without drawing a single thing and then I go back to it, something is going to improve at some point, even if it's an imperceptible amount of improvement. I just need to be patient. The foundation is going to be a lot more solid and it's going to hold things in place for a lot longer, and it's going to be a lot more sustainable than if I just try to, get a result as fast as possible. Now I'm going to live with this spider until I can muster the courage to kill it, and at the same time, I'm gonna eat some food. All right, goodbye.